Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Raising the Bar podcast. This podcast this week is going to go over just a few questions I've got, kind of how I'm feeling 2.5 weeks out, because as of recording of this, I am 2.5 weeks out, or 17 days away from my show. And honestly, training-wise, calorie-wise, cardio-wise, not a whole lot has changed since the last time I've recorded this podcast. The only thing I would say that changed is a small drop in calories. So before, I think the previous podcast, I was around 2,100 calories, which put me around 240 protein, 160-ish carb, and around 52 fat. Now I am at 2,000 calories at 230 protein, around 155 carb, and still around that same amount of fat there. Body weight as of this morning was 156.4, which I think in the last one I was in the mid or to low 160s. Cardio's still been about the same at 4 bouts of 25 minutes. I switched to the bike instead of the Stairmaster. I've been doing the Stairmaster for most of this prep, but I decided to switch to the bike just because it's a lot less fatiguing. Like, I did it a few times this past few weeks, and it was just absolutely draining versus being on the bike. Strength overall has been very similar throughout all of prep. It was actually going up via progressive overload for, I want to say, the first 8 weeks of prep. And then it kind of, I wouldn't say tapered off, but it kind of stayed stagnant. And then slowly come that, like 3-4 weeks out, it was starting to drop off a little bit. So coach and I decided on just dropping a little bit of volume off. So some exercises where I'm doing 3 sets, I'll do 2 sets, but that intensity is about the same, if not a little bit more. And steps are just about the same as well, around that 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, just to kind of keep up and keep moving. So I've gotten a few questions over the past little bit. I've just been adding some Q&As to my Instagram. First question is ideal stage weight. At this point, I don't really have an ideal weight, but what I'm guessing I will be around is kind of the 154 range, 153, 154. Just because I don't think at this point we're going to lose too much more weight. It'll just be kind of drying out and bringing a little more conditioning to the table. The next one here, and I thought this was a really good one that I've had a few people ask, is how to stop like hunger cravings. For me, just because my carbs are a little lower and kind of spacing out food a little more throughout the day, I've noticed personally that kind of hunger sets in just a little bit. Like overall, this prep though, I haven't had too much hunger or like kind of painful hunger with food. So I would definitely say adding in veggies is a big part of kind of changing the volume of your food. So just overall finding foods that are more voluminous than like calorie dense. So for me, like at the start of prep, I switched out regular rice with cauliflower rice just to get that similar texture without as many carbs. So then I can have more of my carbs with my pre and post workout meals. And along with that, overall, just finding sources of protein that kind of yield more volume. So for me, my go-to is kind of egg whites, any sort of whey, because I usually make whey into like some sort of cream of rice or protein oats. And then chicken's pretty good for kind of being filling and having enough protein to it. Fish is really good as well. Like today I'm doing, I believe, like cod fillets or something like that. And like for the same amount of protein, I'm using like 300 grams of like raw cod fillet. But one thing I will say about kind of stopping hunger cravings is kind of keeping busy as much as you can. For me, I've noticed like working more and kind of passing the time with things that I enjoy doing definitely helps with that hunger craving. And so for me, and this kind of leads into the next question, is what video games are you playing at the moment to pass the time? Currently, right now, I'm playing Smite, and I'm playing this kind of real-time strategy series called Dawn of War. Just again, pass the time, nothing too crazy, nothing too stressful. I've played a few kind of more stressful, intense games in the past, and it just kind of stresses me out more than anything else, which is not what I really want during prep. So I've decided to go for things that are less stressful and kind of slower pace and just kind of individualized. It sounds super nerdy, but it is what it is. It's what I do to pass time during prep. But mainly what I've been doing to pass the time as well is watching a lot of kind of prep series. So like seeing other bodybuilders and men's physique athletes going through the same thing that I'm doing. One of the main ones that I'm watching right now is Josh Bridgman and Joe Brightman. They're both around kind of the same 2 or 3 weeks out as me. So it's really interesting, even though they are enhanced athletes. It's interesting to see kind of how their take on prep is versus how I'm doing prep. And I can kind of not so much take ideas from them, but kind of understand that like everybody goes through it differently, and then kind of everybody kind of suffers differently as well. I've also been watching a bit of George Osborne. It's another UK bodybuilder that I've been following just for the past little bit. So it's good to see, for me at least, like both sides. So Joe and Josh being enhanced, and then George being a natural athlete. It definitely kind of helps understand kind of the recovery and kind of what can be done naturally along with enhanced. So it's definitely just interesting to kind of gain that knowledge on both sides of the spectrum there. The next question I got was, what is my morning routine? So typically it kind of varies day by day. It depends on whether I'm working in the morning or if I am working out in the morning, or if I have just like a relaxed day. So like today I got up, had a coffee, just kind of relaxed most of the morning. So today is kind of one of the days where I won't do cardio. But let's say on a Monday I work out around 3 o'clock. So I'd say around 7 in the morning, I'm doing my weigh-ins, getting my vitamins in, doing a quick little posing just to kind of keep consistent with that, just to make sure I have that dialed in. And then my 25 minutes on the bike that I have at home here, which has been super convenient for the past few weeks of prep. And then depending on how I'm feeling, I'll either go for a walk or I'll just kind of, again, relax. And the next question that I saw was, what is your caffeine at right now? So typically I don't go over 400 milligrams of caffeine, which might sound like a lot, but for me that's either like a large coffee and then my pre for like later in the day, or something along those lines. I've been toying with decaf coffee quite a bit actually, and it's been kind of helping, just like the placebo of having that hot coffee beverage, even though there's like a minimal amount of caffeine in it, has been helping me out throughout the day. So like even right now I'm having a large decaf coffee, again, just to kind of have that mental kind of idea of having caffeine in the day. So I had one person asking me if I was going to do kind of a what I eat in a day type of video, or kind of talk about that a little more. So I'll just go into kind of what I've been having the past few weeks. It's changed just a little bit, just to kind of prioritize carbs around kind of my training window versus just having carbs when I want to have carbs. So I know a lot of people will kind of backload their calories for the day or something like that. So I'll just go over mine here quick. So kind of meal one is dependent on whether or not I'm working out in the morning or if I'm working out later in the day. But for today, we'll say I have legs at 2:30ish, 3 o'clock. So I started my day with my meal around 10 o'clock. I had 300 grams of egg whites, 2 whole eggs, and then some veggies. So I did bell peppers and some green beans. and then some jalapenos and spinach just to get some greens. So that took that around 40-ish grams of protein and kind of a little higher in fats in the morning. Just because I've been reading a little more about having, I wouldn't say front-loading fats for the day, but having a little bit just to start the morning off has been beneficial for kind of cognition and stuff like that. Meal 2 has been either like kind of like a protein pancake, but I've switched that out for fish. Not because it's going to thin my skin out or anything like that, but just purely out of a volume standpoint. I'm not overly worried about switching protein sources. It's the carb sources that I've been keeping very similar. So for today, I'm having 300 grams of wild pollock fillets, 200 grams of green beans, and then a little bit of mustard on top, which at this point, it sounds gross, but mustard is a really good kind of super low calorie, not a whole lot of sodium, well, a little bit of sodium to it, but overall like a lower calorie sauce to put on my food. Pre-workout meal will be 60 grams of quick oats, 40 grams of whey, 100 grams of frozen blueberries, and a square of 85% dark chocolate with a little bit of salt substitute. So it's just to get potassium in before my workout. Pre-workout, depending on the workout that I'm doing, I'll switch between the pre from Iron Kingdom. I have pump from Mammoth supplements, I want to say. And then I have like a Revolution kind of peach pre-workout just for days where I'm not feeling that I need too much kind of stimulants to get through that workout. And then intra-workout, I've been playing around with kind of electrolytes intra-workout. So I'm having the 0-calorie Gatorade Propel. So it has a good amount of potassium and sodium in that, and it adds a little bit of flavor to my intra-workout drink, which is kind of nice. And then I'll squirt in just a little bit of Mio again, just for that flavor and kind of electrolytes there. Post-workout meal is 45 grams of cream of rice, 30 grams of whey, 100 grams of blueberries, and 10 grams of almond butter, just to kind of slow down digestion a little bit, adding in those fats there. Meal 5 is 160 grams of chicken breast, 100 grams of green beans, and then again mustard on top. Easy condiment to have on top of the food right now. Like everything is super palatable, so yeah, it sounds funny, but it tastes great. And then meal 6 is a kind of like a chocolate protein mug cake that I've been doing for the past few weeks, and then 10 grams of almond butter on top just to get the end of the fats for the day, and it tastes pretty good. So the mug cake, honestly, super easy. It's like 190 calories the way I make it. So it's just protein powder. I've been using chocolate protein powder from Canada Protein, quarter cup of egg whites, quarter cup of almond milk, a few packets of stevia just for sweetness, but that'll be probably taken out next week or the week after that. Baking powder just for it to rise a little bit, and then cocoa powder just for that taste. Mix it all up, 2 or 3 minutes in the microwave just to kind of let it rise and fully cook through. And yeah, it's pretty good. So I believe that is all of the questions for today. It's kind of a shorter podcast for today, but honestly, not a whole lot has changed from, I think I did 6 weeks out my last episode. And so I think I'll cap off this podcast with just saying that I'm very excited for the show. I think what I'm bringing to the show kind of 2.5 weeks out and then 3.5 weeks out is going to be something kind of really interesting for me, only because I've never been to this kind of body fat or this level of intensity in overall like body composition. Starting to see abs and veins that I haven't seen is pretty cool. Vascularity is really good, but it kind of worries me because like men's physique isn't really much of a vascularity contest. So we'll see how things go come show day. I'm ideally wanting to do another one next week and then doing another episode during my peak week, and then doing one post show and then kind of a few weeks after the shows as well, just to keep you guys in the loop, and then kind of keep me accountable with kind of journaling the progress from this prep, just because like it's a very interesting process to go through, from being kind of like working out just to work out, and then working out for a very intense goal in mind. But yeah, I have a lot of buddies that are really rooting for me, so that support system is really nice. I have a lot of like, kind of bodybuilding buddies and bodybuilding friends that I've kind of spoken with here and there online, and they're saying how I'm like in a really good spot prep wise, like mentally, physically, like just the look is getting really good for that 2.5 weeks out. So kind of that reassurance there is very rewarding in that sense. But that will be it for this week's podcast. Again, shorter, but again, not a whole lot has changed since the last time I've been on here. So yeah, we will cut it off at that, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.